Subhanallah, 3 mayyit in al-Qusais. We had to make janazah for 3 people at one time. That's pretty strange in the place where we are. Being in the grave is either a garden of the gardens of paradise, or it's a hufra from the hufr al-nar, or it is a pit of the hellfire. Now, how Sheikh mentioned, beautify and save yourself from the punishment of the grave with your good deeds. Indeed, your good deeds is going to be your companion in your grave. And that grave, if you answer the question properly, in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is your Lord and Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is the messenger and Islam is your deen, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enlarged that grave. According to the hadith of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, 40 cubits left, right, front and back, which is around 70 meters left, right, front and back. And you will see a man or a woman from the other side, a creature will come to you, and then you will say, you bring good news. And then he will say, I am your good deeds that you used to perform in the dunya, and I shall stay with you until Yawm al-Qiyamah. You stay in that grave until Yawm al-Qiyamah. Now think about it. The people who passed away 1,400 years ago, it's been how many years they've been in the grave? 1,400 years. People who passed away 200 years ago, it's been how long they've been in the grave? 2,200 years ago. And for how long they've been on the earth? 60, 70. How long we're going to be on the earth? 60, 70. In the grave, how long? 500, 1,000, 3,000, until Yawm al-Qiyamah. Do we know? So, the duration of our life in the grave is longer than the dunya. So, which one is worth that we prepare for more? Al-barzakh wa al-dunya? Al-barzakh, la shak. And we stay in there. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in regards to the first thing, and when we'll come to know when we have to get out of that grave. And Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he was telling the Sahaba, how can I feel at ease and how can I feel at peace when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has already ordered Israfil to put his lips next to the trumpet? How can I feel at ease when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has just ordered Israfil to put his lips next to the trumpet, and he's just waiting for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to say blow, and then he will blow. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned about blowing the trumpet in Yawm al-Qiyamah. Allah Azza wa Jalla mentioned, وَنُفِخَ فِي الصُّورِ فَصَعِقَ مَنْ فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَمَنْ فِي الْأَرْضِ وَنُفِخَ فِي الصُّورِ فَصَعِقَ مَنْ فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَمَنْ فِي الْأَرْضِ إِلَّا مَنْ شَاءَ اللَّهُ ثُمَّ نُفِخَ فِيهِ أُخْرَى فَإِذَا هُمْ قِيَامٌ يَنْظُرُونَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will ask Israfil, Ya Allah, it's time to blow. By the time Israfil will blow the trumpet, وَنُفِخَ فِي الصُّورِ فَصَعِقَ مَنْ فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَمَنْ فِي الْأَرْضِ. So the first trumpet is known as نَفْخَةُ الصَّاعِقَ, the trumpet in which all people are going to fall, all people are going to die, those who are in the heaven and the earth. except whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has decided to keep them however they wish. That in the hand of Allah Azza wa Jal. Who are they? Wallahu ta'ala a'lam. Illa man sha Allah. ثم نفخ فيه أخرى فإذا هم قيام ينظر. And then there will be a second trumpet, and then at that moment everyone will be resurrected from wherever they have fallen from the first trumpet, and they will be removed from the grave from the time they have been buried. This is from the second trumpet. How many years and time are there between the first and the second trumpet? Wallahu ta'ala a'lam. In the hadith in Sahih Bukhari and Muslim, Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, he mentioned that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he mentioned that there are 40 between the two trumpets. And he stayed there. Even the Rawi cannot say, the narrator said, was it 40 days, 40 weeks, or 40 years? Wallahu ta'ala a'lam. And this is at the time of resurrection. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala resurrect in a manner in which we know that we have a smile on our face, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala.
My brothers and my sisters, the scenes of Qiyamah has been witnessed by us in a similar way, in a very symbolic manner. You see Hajj. How many of you have been to Hajj? How many have been to Hajj? How many of you seen people in Hajj in Arafah? You haven't seen? Allahu Akbar. We all have seen it. In Yawm al-Arafah, how people gather. They gather with a hope. They gather with a reason, with a purpose. And subhanallah, we get to know about Qiyamah, about the day of judgment, the day of resurrection, about our resurrection, our Qiyamah. We experience that every single day. Can you tell me how? We do what? Every single day. 5 times a day. What do we do? The mu'adhdhin, or the one who actually calls us to actually stand for prayer, what does he say? Hayya, hayya ala salah, hayya ala al-falah, and then قَدْ قَامَتِ الصَّلَاةِ. That salah, that standing, is a symbolic manner that we are going to stand before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And people who used to deny that how come Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala going to give life back to the ones who are in the grave for so many ages, for so many years. Allah will bring them back as it is easier for Him to bring him back at the first instance. When we read Surah Al-Qiyamah itself, my brothers and sisters, we get to know the believers will rejoice on that day. Who has that stability. But there is tremor as well. Scenes are such that nobody would recognize each other. People will be running, marching towards a place called Hashr, the gathering that is going to be established by the decree of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And subhanallah, on that day, nobody can say, I'm busy. Like how we see some people, subhanallah, when we call them for salah, what do they say? I'll come, I'm a little busy now. No escape. No escape at all. Everyone, from the beginning till the end, will rise up. That's the day which is equivalent to 50,000 years. A day of Qiyamah, day of Akhirah. That is how it is. Long and so much of agony on the faces of the people. Those who used to deny the resurrection, those who used to reject the Qiyamah, those who used to think that we live and we die and nothing happens after that. Those people who used to deny the existence of Qiyamah, everyone will be brought back. My brothers and sisters, Qiyamah is the way for us to remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and have high hopes in the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because none will be saved on that day except those whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will have mercy. That's the day which we have to prepare now. Not today, now. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to ease our matters on the day of Qiyamah.
We always have in our mind and we picture when we read the Quran, and this is what we call a ta'ammulat. We ponder over the Quran and we try to get a picture of what's going to happen. And each one of us over here, when we have read the Quran in regards to Qiyamah, a picture has come into our mind. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made it in the way that we can picture something. And Sheikh just mentioned that on that day, it's not that you're going to say you're going to be busy. And guess what? On that day, it's not that a day that you're going to look at your brothers and your sisters and your mother and your father. Because on that day, it's a day of nafsi, nafsi. It's a day of me and me, myself and myself. How many times you have missed your salah because of your family? How many times you have had some shortcomings compared to your ibadah because of your family on that day? We're speaking about the al-hashar. We're speaking about the gathering. Now we're resurrected. And at that time, we're going to march toward the place where we're all going to gather. That's why Sheikh mentioned about Yawm Arafah. It's a place where we're all going to gather. This is a picture that we get. Where are we going to gather? Wallahu ta'ala a'lam. People will say we're going to gather in Arafah. No, there are no authentic hadith that say so. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said we're going to be gathered in a place that is unknown, white and barren. Where is it? Wallahu ta'ala a'lam. Does that matter? Where are we going to gather? Abadan. On that day, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned, فَإِذَا جَاءَتِ الصَّاخَّةُ يَوْمَ يَفِرُّ الْمَرْءُ مِنْ أَخِيهِ وَأُمِّهِ وَأَبِيهِ وصاحبته وبنيه لكل امرئ منهم يومئذ شأن يغنيه. Your mother and your father won't know you on that day. Your husband and your wife won't know you on that day. Neither your son nor your daughters nor whomever. On that day, it's you, between you and Allah Azza wa Jal. Because you knew that, you've read that in the salah, you implemented, tried to in the dunya. So this is the day where you're going to stand in front of Allah Azza wa Jal. And the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he mentioned, in regards to us gathered on Ard al-Mahshar, on the plain of gathering, you shall all gather. Look at that. You shall all gather on that day, barefooted, naked, and uncircumcised. Allah, think about it. Always go back to how you came in this dunya, and how you will leave this dunya, and how you will resurrect on Yawm al-Qiyamah. I boast about my kandura, you boast about your abaya, about your shoes or whatever you've got. You came naked, barefooted, uncircumcised. You're going to be standing in front of Allah Azza wa Jal on Yawm al-Qiyamah, naked, barefooted, uncircumcised. Why do we keep ourselves into people that are pride among themselves? And Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, though he became the leader of the place, and he said from the hadith of Iyad ibn Himar, where he said, Inna Allah Azza wa Jal awha ilayya an atawada'u. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, out of all what I've got, the leadership, this is what men want at the end of the day, which is power. And he got that in his hand. And what Allah revealed to him is that to be humble. Because when you are humble, this will make you someone who understands your value in this world. Your value in this world and your worth in the eyes of Allah Azza wa Jal. نحن كنا من تراب. We're all from soil. We're going to go into it. We're going to get back at the end of the day. It's just a different texture, a different people, different fashion, different looks. And that is nothing in the eyes of Allah Azza wa Jal. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned, وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهِ وَاعْلَمُوا أَنَّكُمْ إِلَيْهِ تُحْشَرُونَ. And have the fear of Allah. Be conscious of Allah Azza wa Jal and know that you shall gather in front of Allah Azza wa Jal one day. Imagine. And Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he mentioned we're all going to be naked and uncircumcised and barefooted on that day. Aisha radiallahu anha said, Ya Rasulullah, are not each of us going to see each other and look at each other? He said, on that day, people will have not even, we won't be thinking about looking at each other. It won't be the same mental